Oh, fuck me. No! God damn it! Fuck you! Out of the hundreds of titles I've played on my PlayStation 4, Another Dawn is so far the worst one I've touched. This isn't hyperbole either. The game is absolutely terrible in every single regard, and it releasing a month after Sony pulled Cyberpunk 2077 from the PSN store for quality assurance reasons only goes to show that the company was pretending to care about the standards it enforces within its marketplace. This I know because if disastrous experiences like Another Dawn are allowed to be sold, then clearly the company gives zero fucks about quality. But that's an entire conversation for another video. And trust me, it's one I plan on making as I'm going through and playing many of the outright broken titles within the PSN store. Which brings me to Another Dawn, the current holder of the crown for the worst of the worst. First released on PC in 2020 and Xbox in January of this year, Another Dawn hit Sony's marketplace on February 11th, 2021. And judging from the trailer alone, I could tell it wasn't going to be good, so I purchased it for a then upcoming Ruined holiday stream. This is a Twitch series where I play bad games for major holidays, and even with that gimmick in mind, my audience and I were not prepared for just how atrocious this game is. There's truly not a single redeeming quality here. It's so terrible that I'll just up and tell you the score right now. It's a 1 out of 10. From the very moment I hit play, I knew I was in for a rough ride. The experience begins with our protagonist waking up on a rowboat as he receives a phone call from his screaming daughter. The message being loud and clear, she's been kidnapped and we need to save her. But as the plot details played out in the background on horribly recorded audio, I was at first too distracted by the sloppy graphics on display to even care about the plot. I mean, you can see it for yourself. The game looks like an elephant's asshole a day after eating 30 pounds of Chipotle. There's almost no point on dwelling on how it looks except to say that the title feels like an asset flip, given various art assets in no way complement each other. There's no real defined style or cohesion, although I do need to ask, what the fuck is this? It is the only wild animal found within the world, and I for the life of me can't determine what it is. There are zombie creatures near the end, so maybe it's a mutant of some sort? I don't know, I really don't know. Perhaps lore could explain it, but the story and world building are so thin as to be non-existent. There's no notes to read or anything of that sort which expands upon the world or even the bad guy's motivations. And minus a few small moments with other NPCs towards the very end, nothing is actually explained. The title even ends on a garishly awful cliffhanger, as if anyone who played this disaster would feel so inclined to play a sequel. Alright, don't crash, don't do it, don't do it. You're not gonna— no, what? We just fell through the map! As someone who holds a special place in my heart for some amazingly well-made but ugly games, I can forgive hideous graphics and paper-thin plots if the rest of the title is fun and worth playing. But to emphasize just how horrible the gameplay here is, I'm not exaggerating when I say that the graphics are the high point of Another Dawn, because oh boy, the gameplay is so utterly miserable that it makes Zoe Quinn's depression quest look exciting. Yeah, it's that foul. Billed as a survival game, it'd be more apt to call it a shooter as the survival elements are practically nil. There's only a hunger and thirst meter to manage, and unlike other games where you may hunt animals for meat or find food and drink through other creative means, here there's just a finite amount of edibles scattered within each area of the game, and as meters continually drain, you just have to occasionally open a menu to fill up on one or the other. The existence of each meter is entirely pointless and serves more as an annoying detriment to the player than anything. Its implementation is entirely half-assed, so much so that the devs didn't even include an item for your player to hold as you devour whatever it is you're devouring. You just bring an empty hand to your mouth and the related bar fills up. Although as far as animations go, nothing beats the reload. You literally just remove the magazine from the gun and put it back in. It's not swapped for a new one off camera or anything, it's just removed and then reinserted, with bullets magically spawned into place. It's actually quite hilarious. And sadly, that may be the game's only redeeming quality if I was forced to pick one. It can sometimes be so bad it's funny. Like on stream, I got a good laugh out of my first combat encounter. The enemies run away from you with their guns aimed at the ground, but somehow the bullets travel backwards through the gun, passing through the enemy and straight into you. It's absurdly incompetent, but the incompetence is also only funny for a short period of time before it gives away to sheer frustration. Because due to how enemies are designed with their magic bullets, they never miss a shot unless there's a structure between you and them, and this makes combat a completely unfair and tedious chore, a feeling only amplified by the game's shooting mechanics, which are the absolute worst. The gunplay is beyond horrendous. For one, aiming is busted, with the reticle skipping about in a choppy fashion instead of precisely going where you want to aim, so as enemies are hitting you with their never missing rounds, you're stuttering about trying to just line up a shot. Adding to the awful feeling of it all is that guns pack no punch. There is zero sense of impact to each round. This lack of impact extends to melee weapons, items I stopped using entirely after I got my first gun. Thankfully, given how broken the gunplay is, the enemy AI is also practically non-existent, and they'll only shoot you when they're within a certain proximity of your character, so I progressed through the game by killing most baddies from a distance. When I would shoot them, they'd just run at me in single file line, allowing me to pluck them off one by one. It's worth mentioning that there's also a stealth mechanic, but I use the term mechanic lightly, as just like everything else, it's inconsistent and broken, and not workable in areas where there's more than one foe, which is much of the game. If I was held at gunpoint and I had to forcefully recite a second redeeming quality to this thing, it's that it's short. With only a small handful of largely linear areas, it can feasibly be beaten in 60 to 90-ish minutes, or at least that's how long it should take. But realistically, the sheer jank of it all will extend the playtime to a good few hours. This I learned the hard way during the underground lab section of the game. Here it kept crashing at around the exact same spot, and upon each crash, I had to replay the entire area. I also fell through the map during this section, which once again forced me to restart. That's just how broken the experience is. As for other problems, I don't even know where to begin. Jumping causes the world to stutter and spaz out. There's a delay to the menu with button presses not immediately responding. Collision detection with melee weapons is worse than perhaps any game I've ever played. Sometimes the jump button fails to register completely. The frame rate can be outright disastrous. The sound design is often a mess. There's missing animations such as when swimming, and at times my gun broke and I was unable to shoot. I honestly think the developers put more time and effort into their logo at the start of the game than they did the game itself. It is just that bad, and it's shameful that they even put their names on this awful piece of shit. Although perhaps it's more shameful that Sony and Microsoft allows it to be sold on their storefronts. It gets a 1 out of 10. Don't play it. It's not even worth it for the laughs.